If anyone can refute me, show me I'm making a mistake or looking at things from the wrong perspective, I'll gladly change. It's the truth I'm after, and the truth never harmed anyone. Marcus Aurelius. 4 situations where you should never be silent. We often hear of the virtues of silence, its calming influence, its power to hold wisdom. But what about the silences that echo with complicity, the unspoken words that allow injustice to fester? In a world clamoring for our attention, sometimes the most impactful thing we can do is find the courage to speak. Today, we'll explore 4 situations where silence is not golden, but a disservice to yourself and the world around you. We'll use the wisdom of Stoic philosophy to guide us, a philosophy that champions virtue, courage, and reason above all else. Before we begin, if you find value in exploring these timeless ideas, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us reach more people who are searching for meaning and purpose in their lives. Now, let's delve into the 4 moments where the Stoic path calls for your voice to be heard. Number 1. When falsehoods are being proclaimed. Truth, for the Stoics, was not just a desirable quality, it was a fundamental pillar upon which a virtuous life was built. It wasn't merely about avoiding outright lies, but about a commitment to accuracy, clarity, and the pursuit of understanding. When we encounter falsehoods, whether intentional misinformation or unintentional errors, our silence can be interpreted as agreement or acceptance. Epictetus reminds us, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." I remember a time in college when a professor presented a study with flawed methodology. I knew the data was incorrect, and several of us did. But the silence in the room was deafening. We were young, intimidated, and didn't want to challenge authority. But one student, a quiet, thoughtful person, finally raised their hand and calmly pointed out the inconsistencies. The professor initially brushed it off, but after further examination, admitted the error and thanked the student for their courage. That moment showed me how crucial it is to speak up, not for personal gain, but for the sake of truth itself. That one voice made a difference for everyone in that class that day. But let's not stop there. You see, this principle applies to our personal relationships as well. Picture a moment when a loved one harbors a misunderstanding about you, perhaps believing you've wronged them when you haven't. In situations like these, silence can perpetuate unnecessary hurt and distrust. Clarifying the truth with kindness and transparency can heal wounds and strengthen your bond. Think about how much of our modern world is built upon shared understanding, shared facts, and how swiftly that can crumble when falsehoods are allowed to propagate. It's about the ripple effect of misinformation and how it slowly erodes trust and the fabric of society itself. The Stoics understood that knowledge was a powerful tool, and withholding the correction of falsehoods is akin to denying the truth its power. Speaking up isn't about grandstanding or winning arguments. It's about carefully articulating the truth. It's about presenting evidence with calm and reasoned logic. It might be as simple as saying, "I believe that information might be incorrect," or offering alternative evidence to consider. In relationships, it could sound like, "I'd like to clarify what really happened so there's no misunderstanding between us." It takes courage to challenge misinformation, especially when it's popular or comes from a place of authority. But remember the Stoic principle of focusing on what you can control. You cannot control what others believe or say, but you can control whether you stand for truth or not. And that control is a profound responsibility, one that builds stronger societies and relationships alike. Number 2. When you are being gaslit or manipulated. Gaslighting and manipulation are not just frustrating. They are deeply harmful. They're designed to make you question your own reality, your memories, and even your emotions. You see, these tactics thrive in silence, feeding off your self-doubt and leaving you feeling powerless. But as a Stoic, the one thing you cannot allow is for anyone to rob you of your ability to think clearly and reason for yourself. That's the heart of Stoicism, clarity of mind and control over your own inner world. Now let's break this down. Gaslighting can show up in many forms. Maybe your partner denies ever saying something you know they said, or your friend dismisses your feelings with, "You're just overreacting." Perhaps it's your boss blaming you for mistakes you didn't make. Whatever the case, the effect is the same. You begin to doubt your own judgment. Your sense of reality starts to crumble, and the manipulator gains control. This is precisely why silence is not an option. When you stay quiet, you're inadvertently agreeing to their version of the truth. Here's what you need to do. First, pause and assess the situation. Remember what Epictetus taught us. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Start by acknowledging your experience. Say to yourself, "This feels wrong, and I trust my instincts." Don't brush off your feelings. They are signals that something is amiss. From there, it's about gathering clarity. Write things down. Keep a journal where you record exactly what was said or done. This isn't just for your memory, it's your proof. When gaslighting makes you question yourself, having those notes anchors you in the truth. Seek out trusted friends or a therapist who can validate your experiences and help you see things objectively. And here's the hard part. You have to confront the manipulator. Not with aggression, but with calm confidence. Say something like, "I remember it differently," or "This doesn't feel right to me, and I need to talk about it." You see, the goal isn't to win an argument, it's to reclaim your voice. If confrontation isn't safe or effective, you still have the power to set boundaries. Whether that means limiting contact, exiting the relationship, or simply refusing to engage with manipulative tactics, it's about taking back control. As Marcus Aurelius wisely said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. When someone tries to manipulate you, they're trying to seize control over your mind. But the Stoic path demands that you guard it fiercely. Remember, silence in these situations is not just passive, it's permissive. By speaking up, you're not only protecting yourself, but also embodying the Stoic ideal of living authentically and courageously. Find your voice, trust your reason, and refuse to accept anything less than the truth. That's how you overcome manipulation and reclaim your inner freedom. Number 3, when your boundaries are being crossed. For the Stoics, self-respect and integrity were paramount. Boundaries are not about putting up walls, but about establishing the lines of respect that are essential for healthy relationships and a stable sense of self. Your personal boundaries are the invisible lines that define what you are and aren't comfortable with. They protect your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being. When someone repeatedly crosses those lines, whether intentional or unintentional, your silence isn't just passive. It communicates that their behavior is acceptable. Perhaps it's a colleague who makes inappropriate jokes, a friend who constantly asks for favors without reciprocating, or a family member who disregards your time and commitments. Remaining silent in these scenarios may feel like the easiest path in the moment, but it creates a slippery slope where your boundaries are continually tested and eventually eroded. The Stoics believed that we have a duty to ourselves. To live a virtuous life, we must ensure that our physical and emotional well-being is protected. Allowing others to repeatedly overstep those boundaries damages your integrity and creates an environment where your needs are secondary to others. You see, setting boundaries is not an act of selfishness, but rather one of self-preservation. It's an acknowledgement of your intrinsic value and the respect you deserve. The Stoics were keenly aware of the importance of self-control, and part of that control is knowing when to say no without guilt. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." This principle can be extended to your boundaries. If it does not align with your values, you have every right to refuse it. To act in these scenarios, you must first recognize the transgression and clarify for yourself what you are and are not willing to accept. Then you must find your voice to speak with firmness and clarity. Consider using phrases such as, "I appreciate the support, but I am not able to assist with that at this time," or "I understand what you're saying. However, I would prefer if you didn't talk to me like that." This approach allows you to establish clear lines without being aggressive or argumentative. As a matter of fact, speaking up for your boundaries demonstrates self-respect and models respectful behavior for others. It shows them that your well-being is just as important as their own. It's worth noting that not everyone will react positively when you assert your boundaries. Some may resist or even challenge you, but that doesn't mean you've done something wrong. Remember, you are not responsible for others' reactions, only for your own actions. And by standing firm, you reinforce your sense of self-worth and your commitment to living authentically. Remember Seneca's wisdom: no man can have a peaceful life who thinks too much about lengthening it, or believes that living through many consulships is a great blessing. What this reminds us is that life is not about longevity, but about quality and integrity. Upholding your boundaries is a cornerstone of living a life of quality. It ensures that your relationships are built on mutual respect and that you're not compromising your values for the sake of convenience or approval. Setting boundaries is an act of self-respect, not an act of rejection. It is essential to protect your well-being and foster healthy, respectful relationships. By standing up for your boundaries, you embody the Stoic principles of courage, wisdom, and self-discipline, creating a life that aligns with your values and virtues. Number 4, when your inner voice is telling you something is wrong. You see, Stoicism is not about suppressing emotions. Rather, it's about understanding them and ensuring they don't overpower our decisions. The Stoics believed that we all possess an inherent sense of reason and a moral compass, a kind of inner wisdom that, when nurtured, will guide us toward a life of virtue. But here's the thing: we often choose to ignore that inner voice. Why? Sometimes it's for the sake of comfort, convenience, or even the approval of others. Now, think about those moments when something feels off, a nagging discomfort, a persistent thought that says, "This isn't right. What do we do?" Often we brush it aside and go along with the flow, convincing ourselves it's easier to stay silent. But listen, that inner voice exists for a reason. It's there to protect us, to steer us away from harm, and to help us act in alignment with our values. I once worked on a project that seemed off from the very beginning. The data didn't add up, and the timeline felt suspiciously rushed. My gut was practically yelling at me to ask questions and dig deeper. But I didn't. I wanted to appear as a team player, and I convinced myself that raising concerns might make me seem difficult. Weeks later, everything unraveled, revealing hidden issues that could have been addressed earlier. I realized painfully that ignoring my instincts didn't just hurt me, it made me complicit in the failure. From that experience, I learned the value of trusting my inner voice, even when it's uncomfortable to act on it. Well, let me tell you, remaining silent when your inner voice is raising red flags isn't prudence. It's self-betrayal. It's a denial of your own reasoning and intuition. Over time, this habit of ignoring your instincts can erode your confidence in your judgment and leave you questioning your decisions. The Stoics teach us to live in alignment with our principles, and that alignment requires listening to the quiet wisdom within ourselves. Now, don't misunderstand me. This isn't about indulging every fleeting fear or irrational worry. No, it's about acknowledging when your inner truth is trying to speak and giving it the respect it deserves. The Stoic approach here is to investigate. When your conscience signals that something isn't right, ask yourself, what exactly feels wrong? What can I do to address it? Acting on those answers might mean questioning the status quo, challenging established norms, or making decisions that demand courage and resilience. Remember Marcus Aurelius's wisdom: if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. Trusting your inner voice allows you to embody this principle. Ignoring it, on the other hand, is a step away from self-reliance, the kind of self-reliance that Stoicism values deeply. So, when that inner voice speaks, listen. Let it guide you toward a path of integrity, even if it's not the easiest route. By trusting your instincts and acting with courage, you're not just protecting yourself. You're aligning with the Stoic ideal of living authentically and virtuously. Choosing to speak in these situations is not always easy. It takes courage, clarity, and a commitment to living in accordance with your values. But remember, silence is not always golden, and sometimes the most virtuous path is to let your voice be heard. Embrace the Stoic call to action and be a force for good in a world that desperately needs it. What situations have you faced where speaking up made a difference? Share your experiences in the comments below. Thanks for watching. See you in our next video. God bless.